Alright, let's see how. First time using this. First time in a while I've used this. It appears that I'm doing okay now. Let me go to my channel. Let me check the sound.
First time in a while I've used this.
Aha. Alright, cool. So, what I'm going to do is go to the map that I have and kind of show you guys what I've been doing, really. I didn't expect to be able to stream tonight. I'm expecting it to kind of conk out a bit, but let me fiddle around with this a bit. Okay, so as you can see, there's a map here that I'm hoping to run eventually, and really what I'm going to explain a bit about what I'm working on right now is there's actually a couple of places, but there's one in particular I want to talk about tonight to kind of give you guys an idea of what I am now. Those of you that have been following me around for a while, ever since my mention of the Forsaken Necromancer video, you probably know that you all probably know that I'm a huge monster movie buff. So, like, I'm a big fan of that stuff. So, whenever I run games and I try to make things up, I try to tap into my love for that kind of stuff. I apologize, by the way. I know I announced that I wasn't going to stream tonight, but I was able to get everything up and running. Figures after I already announced I wouldn't do it. But apologies, but maybe I'll do another stream again this upcoming week anyway. I do apologize for that. But let's talk about room 6 going into room 7 there. That's what we're going to talk about. So, this is the first level of the Tomb of the Forlorn, and it is something I do plan on running eventually. And something cool about it, just because I'm not going to spoil everything about it, but I'm going to talk about room 6 going into 7 to kind of give you guys an idea. Now, I'm not an artist. I don't claim to be. This is a map I made in GIMP, so it serves my purposes. As you can see, 6 is subdivided into A, B, and C, and there is a reason for that. Now, you probably noticed that you go from these big wide squares on the grid to like half a square, and that's because we're going from 10 feet to 5 feet. Now, this is supposed to be 5 feet as well. Again, I'm not an artist. This is all supposed to be 5 feet, whereas this is 10. This is about 30 feet. This is 10, and this is a 30 by 30 square. With that being said, really what's going on is not so much of the width that the players are going to be coming into, but the height. And there's an explanation for that. Now, the width does matter in the fact that the one thing that I think game masters should think about when they run their games and trying to pose challenges to players is to consider probably the one bit of resources that everybody shares undisputedly. That being movement. Movement is something we don't think a whole lot about because the fighter is obviously going to move up and try to smack a dude. The cleric may hang back and cast a spell or turn the undead, or he might be alongside the fighter. The squishy magic user is going to try to move himself back to either cast a spell or throw a dagger, and the thief is either going to try to hide so that he can backstab, or if he decides he's going to be more productive in the fight, try to shoot a bow and arrow or throw knives or something. Just as an aside. So movement is something we don't think a lot about, and because we don't think a whole lot about it, we tend to fall into this trap of encounters being roll initiative, side one goes, side two goes, redo initiative, side one two, side two, side one goes, side two goes, and it's just a rinse and repeat. And there's not a whole lot you can do in terms of core rules to really necessarily get too far away from that aspect without homebrewing something. But using the core rules, all you simply have to do is introduce a concept of peril within some of the action economy. And in this case, I've chosen movement. Now, you know about the width, so everybody's going to be going single file. But you probably remembered that I mentioned the height. You see, most of this is going to be about 10 to 20 feet, with the exception of some parts being upwards of 50 feet, because it's a cavernous area to start with. This is 3 feet high. From this point through these tunnels, 3 feet high. These certain areas are a little higher. A, B, and C themselves proper are about 5 feet high, and 7 culminates back to about 10 feet high, about like a room height. So you can probably get what I'm talking about here, and that is, unless they have a character that's abnormally short, even by halfling standards, they're going to have to crawl. So you're going to have a single file line of people on their hands and knees crawling if they want to explore this place. Now, their end goal, really, by the end of this, is to get to room 7 there. And I did put some goodies in there to justify the difficulty in which they will probably be facing the tribulations they're going to run into. Give me a second. My wife wanted to... here. 1 second. And I'm hoping everything hasn't conked out yet, because it was really hard considering the weather to get everything going. So anyways, so from this point in the tunnel, in the passageway of room 6, going right here, that's when everything is 3 feet high and 5 feet wide. This all through here is, all these slender areas are 3 feet high by 5 feet wide. This is about 5 feet tall, this is about 5 feet tall, this is about 5 feet tall, this is about 10 feet tall. So they want to get here where there are some goodies at the end. And trust me, I did put treasure that is very generous, especially for a level 1 party, because that is what I had in mind. Now, the monsters that I rolled up for this layer, kind of your typical smorgasbord of undead, skeletons, zombies, but of course I threw in ghouls. and ghouls can be very nasty for a level 1 party. This room has 2 of them. This room has 3, and this room also has 2. If during their trek they crawl up through here and they're making noise or something, if they come up here, now of course if they're making noise, these ghouls here are going to hear them before they ever make it to this point. But if they, let's assume that they all take off their armor, they're going to go as slow and steady as they can. Obviously if they come through here, the ghouls are going to see them and start come after them to try to attack. This is, I've subnamed the ghoul ambush, because even if they don't go this way, and at this point I decided that they wouldn't make enough noise just by crawling for the ghouls to hear them. I decided to be a little bit nice on that. They come through here and they come into what I've called the killing floor, because up through here are bodies. See, the ghouls in here are feasting off of like vermin, because there's like giant centipedes and rats and bats and stuff, and they're gnawing on the remains of that kind of stuff. These guys over in here, they have humanoid bodies, so they're eating more, I don't know if I would call it nutritious, but certainly better for a ghoul, more filling anyway. And so, it has 3 of the more bigger ghouls up in here. Now, of course, ghouls are very beastly, and even though they have morale, they're still undead, so they're pretty rough. So it's assumed that the party, if they're not successful in turning them, and they end up having a fight, ghouls here and the ghouls here, because this is actually just a mirror of A over here. Like if there's a fight here, 2 of them here and 2 of them here are going to hear the fight going on here. So they're going to go around that way more likely, but they'll probably try to go that way if they want to set an ambush or something. They might even split up. One goes here, one goes here. Of course, these guys will come running out. Now, let's say the party has some way of getting by them. Let's say that they have something that, let's say everybody has something that turns them invisible. Once they get up in here, it is assumed that by then the ghouls know about their presence, because there's going to be some things to alert them to their presence. And of course, this room is going to be more like what used to be an ancient hiding place for a group of adventurers that hid their treasures here. And so because of that, the goodies are nice. It's mostly the coins. There are some gems, but they're not worth that much. But it's going to be mostly the coins, and it's going to be very obviously the coins. But, there's a litter of bones in here, to the point where it'd be impossible for them to walk through here without making some kind of racket. And so if they somehow bypass all the ghouls down here, they're more likely going to alert them by the time they reach here. And so hopefully their cleric is good enough at turning them, because otherwise they're going to have a very nasty fight on their hands. But that's what I got going on. As you can see, this is just level 1. I've also got another subsection over here that's going to be in the same vein as that, but I haven't rolled anything for it yet, because I roll anytime I don't have a concrete idea. This room up here I like a lot. Not going to spoil anything on it, but let's just say I'm looking forward to it. And then of course this takes you down deeper, and this takes you down deeper, and that's where you enter from. And as you can tell, this smaller cave system kind of thing. A few dead end trails just to kind of lead people off the path. Um, like I said, I'm no artist. This is just kind of what I've designed. I am going to have a second entrance, but it's not going to lead to level 1. It's going to lead to one of the lower floors, so that if the party does make it deeper and they want to escape, they got a quicker way out. But also because if they happen to stumble upon this place in the wilderness, then they can bypass level 1 altogether and be in for a nasty little surprise. The quote big bad end quote of this particular dungeon is at the very bottom level, and this is going to be a 7-layer dungeon. This is going to be one that has a lot of time put into it. It is more than likely going to put everybody close to level 10 by the end of it, but no guarantees yet. The idea of trying to keep players from being too powerful too quickly from simply running this thing is going to be a challenge. Now, of course, reward them for exploring this, because this is going to be a pretty nasty little place. Even the layer 1 so far, what I have for level 1, just what you're looking at on the map, is a pretty nasty place, and all I've gotten to so far has been here. I haven't even done room 8 yet, I don't think. So yeah, that's kind of what I got going on. As for finding the place itself, so I'm a big believer in that, like, between levels 1 and 3, the emphasis should be on dungeon crawling, because that's where they're going to get most of their money, to get all the stuff they need for the higher levels eventually. Because once they reach level 4, getting hold of that kind of stuff is not going to be that difficult. And level 4 onward is going to be more about hex crawling more than it is going to be about dungeon crawling. But there's going to be a little bit of wilderness thrown in there. Excuse me. The concept is they're going to find this place in the wild, because they're going to hear rumors about it, of course. Well, let's just say the sources are not necessarily lying. It's just that they're not that reliable. But there's like a whole bit of stuff I've wrote up for this place so far. I just need to get from point A to point B. Now, with that being said, while we're at it, let's pop-ups like crazy. You click on one thing and they beat you to death. Get that junk out of here. Let's go to GIMP. Right? So we'll wait for it to load up. Not necessarily keeping up, is it? There it is. Okay, click that out. Of course, yeah, I decided to put that as my stinking wallpaper, because why why not at this point? Let's start with, again, I'm not an artist, so this is just to kind of show you how I do things. So now that we're in GIMP, of course what we're doing, this is just going to be just a test thing. I'm not actually going to be working to create anything tonight, but we're going to have a background up, and then while we're there, we're going to add a new layer, and we're going to keep it named map. Now we're going to go back to our background. We're going to go up to filters, distorts. No, we want render. We'll go to distorts later, and we'll go to grid. Get out of here. And then we're going to take the line width down to 1, because that's what I like to do. I like to have a thin kind of grid, because it looks like the kind that you would get at the store. I do like to zoom in a little bit. Let's just start with a random place. So I've got the size of my pencil. I just used this. I got the size of my pencil at a 5. While we're there, spacing I put at 10, hardness at 75, force at 100. Jitter is what I'm mostly interested in, because that's what gets that shaky kind of look to it. And I've got it on 0.5, and even at 0.5 you can see like there's, it looks like somebody actually drew it, but of course you can go up to 1 if you want to. I normally don't do more than that, but there you go. So let's just say you're making a dungeon room, so let's just say even a 5-room dungeon, I can't do straight lines by freehanding like that, but let's just say, let's start with this. Right, okay. Now while we're there, we're going to erase. We're going to put that about on 11, and we're going to erase that one there and that one there. Should do a 5-room dungeon, just for kicks and giggles, right? So let's go back to our pencil. We're going to go, back down to 5. We're going to draw passage there and a passage here. Not very long, about 30 feet. Okay, with that being done, we'll do something vaguely octagonal shape. And again, 5-room dungeons are not my specialty. Some of you guys out there that do this, I'm sure you could do better than I could. This is just for an example. Doggone, I hate anytime I get on the internet. Starting to realize why I never do the screen capture. But anyway, with that being done, we'll just do another squarish room here, and we'll put a passageway here. And actually, while we're at it, we'll just hook so that it's a little bit like that, so that it's a very odd shape, right? And we'll put a happy little tree, because everybody needs a friend. And we'll put that in a circular room. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms, and we could put a secret door here, and put like hidden treasure in here or something. Now with that being done, now that jitter is a little bit too much for my liking. That's why I normally like to give it at 5. But because that looks a little too jittery to me, but it's all to your taste. With that being done, actually I normally keep my pen at 0.5, and then for the details I go down to 2. So like, let's say I want to put in a door. And by the way, I'm no GIMP master at this, so Lord of mercy, what happened with that 0.5? I was wondering why my jitter was crazy like that. Because I like a little bit of jitter because it has that nice hand-drawn quality to it. So there's a door. We'll put some pillars in here. Go away. I can't do circles to save my life. If you put a gun to my head, I wouldn't be able to do it. Everything has to get on my nerves now. So let's say, okay, here is here's the entrance, and we'll put a statue in the middle. Of course, old schoolers, we always do the star. It's not a pentagram, it's a star. That represents a statue. We'll say on the way to the happy little tree, let's say the tree is not so happy. In fact, the tree is an enemy, because right by him there's a trap. And we will say that it comes from the ceiling. So dun dun dun. But there you go. There's a 5-room dungeon. Again, I probably should have turned my pen. Golly, go away. I should have turned my pen width down to 5, because that's what I normally do. And then I fill in the details with a 2. I should have turned my jitter down to 0.5. But still doesn't look bad. I mean, again, I'm no artist, but that'll work. Let's say, well, what about treasure? Okay, well, there's your chest. There's the secret room right there, can hold a chest. Now, let's say you want to, because I normally do solid black fills for my outlines, but let's say you don't want to do that. You want to do some hatching. You just take this particular tool, this particular brush. Oh, let's go back a little bit. We don't want too much going into our dungeon map. And because I'm one of those guys that I don't like to rely on the internet for everything. So if I can find offline tools to use and programs, I will. Okay, that one is a little bit, there we go, that's more like it. Yeah. But let's say you're a big fan of that Dyson logos. Look, this is not exactly Dyson logos, but it'll suit your need, right? Let's say you like that cross hatching. A little too much into that. And there. Okay, so there's a little bit there. So in this temple of the Tree of Evil, who has a trap from the ceiling, and there's nothing special about the tree aside from the fact that it has a trap right next to it, so that's why I've dubbed it the Tree of Evil. You can just populate it like, okay, which room is what? Okay, well, I normally like to export and go to paint to do my labeling. Go away. Okay, so, but in GIMP you can also do that because GIMP's really good for like mapping and things like that, right? And that's the strength of it. And if you wanted to color code this, you absolutely could. Like, and there's a reason why we put this on a different layer, so that if you don't like it, you just delete that layer altogether. But let's say you want to color code it. Okay, so what would, like, I don't know, brown, dirt brown for whatever reason. Let's say you want to do dirt brown. Do it. Now obviously you'll lose the matte, but there's a better way to do this. See if I remember how to do it. Okay, so let's say I go to this layer and I use my select tool. Let's see if I still remember how to do this. Okay, so actually let's that. Okay. So that didn't quite go the way I wanted to. Alright, let's try that. And let's try moving that underneath. Oh, not quite. As you can tell, I'm not an expert on this stuff yet. So I'm not good at Photoshop or nothing like that. But, I'm serviceable. But, of course, like, if you didn't want to do that, you could just go through and color each individual square, no problem. As you can plainly see. Again, man. I need to, because I turned off the blocker for OBS because OBS got a little weird on me. But so, there's 5-room dungeon. But let's say you're not interested in a 5-room dungeon. Let's say you're more interested in, say, a hex map. Right. So let's go to